Well, consider consistent with uncertainty in all things. The Christian view has been that we're to will right things. I mean, it certainly accepts the Lord's Prayer, thy will be done, you know. But at the same time, certainly doesn't major on having no will at all, a passivity. There's a certain character that can be. It more takes the view that we're to will, but consistent with God's will. We're to purpose to do right. I mean, it may be that, the Jesus story is, I'm not sure. I do only the will of the Father. Does he mean in certain context or always, whether I get up yet or in 2 minutes' time? I mean, down to what seems trivial. Doesn't seem likely somehow that that's what's meant. But the awareness that God rules and overrules your will, and the trust that, of course, he can and does, and lovingly so, because he does all things to your true benefit and the benefit of all life. All that he's made, you see, all that he's given birth to. I should be saying she now, shouldn't I, really? Are we here specifically to practice willing? Yes, we're creative. Creators they think of something they want to make and then purpose making it. Creative will. What we value is will that's consistent with, in harmony with his will. And in that sense, thy will be done. That in some sense his will is dominating our concern. I mean concern in a good way, our priority. And we are free to create within that which is also consistent with his values. That seems more likely, the more rational story, doesn't it? We're seeking his will, and because we're children learning, we're allowed to create and to learn how to create within that will. So our priority that his will is to be done, and that in some sense it will be. But a lot of our learning is from the creativity within that boundary. In other words, we're allowed much of creativity where that creativity is in harmony with his will. And where it isn't, we trust he will overrule, but we are purposed on being most happily constrained by his will. that sense, it's thy will be done. And we have this assurance, blessed assurance, because of his power and his grace and his love for us all. So we purpose that. And Jesus, therefore, in the prayer can be asking things. But if he does always the will of the Father, he's asking for things within that will that's consistent with and helpful, perhaps. It's not asking through a discontent. He's asking because of a spontaneous creativity, which is what the child does. He makes a picture. He's not thinking, will it sell for a fortune or will it be with me forever? He just wants to make a picture. Puts the colours in and draws it and so on. Says, look what I've made. Oh, that's clever, love. Wow. Nice. Should we put it on your wall? And we as parents may sort of treasure these things because they're the first early steps of our child in creativity, in creativeness, which will be the very heart of life as he matures, he or she. Is this a U-turn on my previous recording? I must listen to it again and see. Hang on. Well, I'm not sure how consistent this is, but I am thinking that the adjustment of our values, ideally, we trust, will bring us to values that are the same as or in harmony with God, our Heavenly Dad. And therefore our desires are accordingly, because our desires are according to our values, what we truly value at heart, almost by definition, you think. So, the secular world does not trust that God is, leave alone doing all things perfectly or all things loving us. We find that to be what we value, a God that would. And we trust that he is a God, therefore, that does, because our God is the personification of what we value. And then we trust him that our values are adjusted, that this may become true. And then we're in a position where increasingly what we purpose and will is according to God's will. So when we say thy will be done, in a sense we're asking for this process to be so, that we purpose his will and are therefore in harmony with him. As regards, I was going to say submission to what his will is, but it's not submission now because it's a joy, because our values are accordingly too. And we just know that what he values is what we would value. I say we just know, we just trust. Or what we would value if we had his perfect understanding and so on. So we're seeking a heavenly situation, abiding, where we purpose all things in harmony with his will. And his will is indeed done, always. And we trust it to be so, and everyone else does around us. This is not the case here, in this universe, in this world. And so there appears some good and evil and so forth, as we see it. Until we have this heavenly assurance that God does overrule all, and that we are delighted with this, of course, because in our hearts he personifies what we would value if we had his understanding and love and his values. I think it's something of this. So when I say this is a reminder above, I mean that we're trusting his will and abide in it. And there's great assurance that whether we understand or not and get his will right or not, he is all loving and grace is extended, of course, in that love. And he's bringing us nonetheless to glory. Beautifully. So yes, we do still have, the child is very willful. And what we're doing is we're bringing that will into a conformity, a very blessed conformity with his will. And so it is that to know God means that you now create in harmony with God, and you're a joy in heaven and a blessing to all, just as they are a blessing to you, for the same reason. We don't experience that on earth, because many are not consciously following his will most of the time. And we see the chaos and the consequence, and we recoil at such chaos and consequence, in a sense quite rightly so. And we seek out what the values should be and pursue them. And God corrects where we pursue them wrongly. This is our trust. It is all trust. So we need the faith to abide in the will of God. As we see it, trusting his grace and guidance, that we're growing to see it clearer and clearer. And that in the meantime his grace is extended to us, where we would have perhaps otherwise bad consequences of what we're willing, through our not knowing. So we abide in him. Assurance, peace of mind, awareness, his wonderful presence in us and in all the circumstances that he allows around us, that enable us to learn and develop and mature here in this wonderful creation that achieves this fantastically wonderful goal of birthing us into fullness of life, life eternal. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Dear one, you most probably need to listen to this particular recording again and again. I mean, it's the heart of prayer, you see. And remember, we're prioritizing in this collection of stories Jon 17, and it's a prayer. And prayer we take to be request. So you need to know the legitimacy of what you're doing. And when I say no, I mean feel it in your heart that you're okay, you're right in doing this. You're on firm ground. It's your dad. That's everything to your trust and your peace of mind and assurance. Do you see? This is spiritual stuff, dear one. It's not religion. It's not theology. It's not philosophy. It's foundation of life. And John 17 has the view that that is our dad. The very essence of our being, you see. Love you, Dad. Thank you, Dad.